It's a pleasure to meet you and speak about this. I'm Matt Mahler with MovieWeb. Thanks for taking the time. Yeah, no, I really appreciate it. Uh, it's a beautiful film, and I mean, cause. And you've had such from what I understand, an incredible and interesting career in life. So I'm curious. I know you had addressed Alzheimer's in your Glen Campbell documentary and in Turning Point. Are those things that Seth and Lauren Rogen were aware of? Is that how this project was kicked off?
Well, actually, Nancy Lynn, who's with Bright Focus Foundation and who is my significant other, um, she met Bonnie Waddles, who is part of the Hilarity for Charity organization. And yes, they had all seen Glen Campbell and they had seen Turning Point, and they knew that as a filmmaker, I probably knew more about Alzheimer's than I wanted to, and they had assembled all this material over the years of their mother's demise, and they brought it to me and said, James, this is a really dark story, and we'd like to bring some light to it in some way and figure out how to tell it in a way that is still the gnarly truth. I mean, Lauren Miller Rogen was very determined that this not um, make Alzheimer's seem like something that's curable, that's not tragic, and yet it's still it's a family disease. And I found the story of their courtship, the 10 years that they took care of their mom and their dad, and they all took care of one another, to be very inspirational. And it really showed the gnarly truth when you see some of the footage of her mom. It's you see the progression of Alzheimer's, and which is something I think Seth and Lauren really wanted young people to really understand what their future could be like with their parents, even themselves, if they did not get involved with taking care of themselves and learning about caregiving, and also learning about the science of this, and maybe making a difference in some of the ways that they uh, contribute money to organizations and scientists that are trying to change the paradigm, and also really take care of themselves, hence taking care.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it is kind of a love story at the heart of this that's just very sweet. It
All
oh
right, hold on for 1 second.
yeah, that's okay.
Yeah, sorry.
Yeah. No, that's okay. Lauren mentions in the film that I mean you were discussing the science of this and the importance of being aware. She mentions Alzheimer's is expected to triple in the next 25 years or so. Do we know by now what some of the reasons are? If there's any concrete causations or even correlations?
Well, we can just begin with the fact that we're living longer. One of the statistics that I learned is that 1 out of 2 of us who hit the age of 85 are going to have some sort of dementia, perhaps, maybe mild cognitive impairment, um, or Alzheimer's. I mean, dementia is the big word, and Alzheimer's is like a specific. If you said cancer, and then you said colon cancer, it would be a specific dementia. There's lots of dementias, but I think aging, and then also, I mean, stress, not getting good sleep, diet, and genetics. I mean, I think genetics are a very big part of it. And so there's blood tests now that look at the ApoE. I don't want to get too nerdy and scientific about it, but it looks at what's going on in your body, and then they, obviously now that they can genetically look at um, what's going on, and if we have plaque in the brain, they can do a blood test now, or a brain scan, whereas uh, 15 years ago, you had to have an autopsy, maybe even actually less than that, 10 years ago, to even know if you had Alzheimer's. And all of us have amyloid plaque, which is what causes Alzheimer's in our brain. It's is that Alzheimer is that plaque going to be enveloped, our neurons be enveloped in our brain, and hence causes Alzheimer's or other neurodegenerative diseases.
Yeah, having made a couple of films with Alzheimer's in it and having experienced it in various ways. How do you think, uh, how authentic is its depiction in Hollywood, in movies in general, in your mind? Are they showing it kind of how it is?
Well, I think you've seen one case of Alzheimer's. It's like our fingerprints. It's a different thing. There's certain
Or
symptomatic things
yeah,
that are there's a commonality. Memory loss. Eventually you learn your body, your mind um, forgets everything: how to breathe, how to walk, how to talk, how to eat, um, and confusion. Those kinds of things. But some people are happy when they get Alzheimer's. Some people are angry. I mean, it's an individual thing. How is it depicted in Hollywood? Um, like I said, I think Lauren and Seth really wanted this to show the gnarly truth, as my friend John Cash would say. Keach, I want the gnarly truth. Okay, so um, and it's not a pleasant thing to look at, and it's like um, I think Julianne Moore did a good job. I think Tony Hopkins did a good job. I think, we're working on doing a walk the line version of the Glen Campbell story. I mean, Glen's story. And I think that in his case, it's one of the most extraordinary things that the guy was able to sing, or Tony Bennett, another example of that, um, to actually sing when he couldn't remember who his wife was. And, so it's fascinating. It's a fascinating disease, and it's tragic. And hopefully none of us get it, but there's an inevitability that a lot of people are going to.
and that's why raising awareness is so crucial. It's You mentioned the Glen Campbell biopic. I'm not sure where you are in that, but is there an actor or actors you have in mind to portray him?
There's
Would you cast multiple at different ages?
um, the no, I don't think so. I think we're going to cast him very young, and he will see himself through the eyes of being young, like we all do. It's like I look at myself on the screen here. I don't see there's a picture right here in the background. I see it up there, me doing the long riders, and I'm 29 years old, and I'm riding down the street kicking ass. But I see myself. I feel that I'm still that guy. But then I look in the mirror and I go, uh-oh, here I am, an older guy. I also think fighting against age is not a good thing to do. I think, that just be acceptance is a very important thing, so.
Are you looking for kind of a fresh face who doesn't carry like presuppositions, someone new?
Well, I think so. Yeah, I think somebody's going to have to understand music. That's a pretty important thing. And Glenn was just a phenomenal musician. So, and he was funny. And but it's still the movie still is about the last tour. But he sees his whole life. It's a different approach to it. But it's like, one of the things about Alzheimer's is that you can go anywhere. Your mind can go anywhere. Well, that's the truth of our minds, period. I mean, if you're meditating or you do anything like that, the monkey mind. I mean, you could be back when you're 5 years old, and then you go to when you're 50, and then you go back to when you're 25, and whatever. But that's Alzheimer's, in the sense that it's a disease of the mind and ultimately of the body, but it's primarily, obviously, a brain situation.
That's interesting. So the narrative structure would sort of be filtered through Alzheimer's in a way.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah, beautiful. Um, you just mentioned the long writers. I guess it's 45 years now since
yeah.
that, and which is hard to believe, I'm sure. Do you I mean, there were stories that the studio cut some, but was I mean, it's so iconic. Were you, is there a final cut that exists that you'd prefer, or is this the best version?
Well, my brother, my Stacy, always had an issue with Walter. Cut a couple of the scenes that he, with which focused on the brotherhood, and I mean, having been on all sides of making films, I understand why he did. It's pacing and things like that. So, is there a cut? Fred Zinnemann, he was a great film director, and Tim Zinnemann was his son and the producer of The Long Riders. He said to us when he saw the cut, he said, "Leave it where Jesus threw it," meaning he said, "Don't fuck with the cut anymore." you know. So Walter did, and so Walter's an extraordinary guy and a great filmmaker. And, you know, I was actually just thinking about the Long Riders this morning, and when we were riding horses every day, my brother and I, both of us lived in Malibu at the time. And, uh, yeah, uh, we used to ride to each other's houses through the mountains. So every day was getting up and riding a horse, which was really cool. It was really cool making westerns. But anyway, I digress. We're talking about taking care.
Oh
So
no, that's fine. Hopefully, something big can happen for the 50th anniversary of Long Riders in 5 years. It'd be great to see like a re-release or something. Westerns are huge right now.
yeah,
Kevin Costner, Taylor Sheridan, it's big. So maybe we can see something in 5 years.
maybe that'd be cool.
Um, I also before I let you go, I was curious if you had seen Seth Rogen's series, The Studio,
I
at all.
I haven't.
Okay.
I'm looking forward to it. Yeah,
Yeah, it's fantastic. I was, yeah, just curious if it seemed relatable to you as someone who had been in the industry.
I'm sure it will be relatable to me. Uh, yeah.
And I'm is there anything that you wish people knew about Alzheimer's? If there was like one nugget of truth or wisdom that people are missing that you just wish you could spread to the world, what would you
I
want
would
them to know?
I would say don't shame people that have Alzheimer's. Don't shame people who are, you see people who are, who have the disease, people in your family, if they keep asking the same thing over and over again or saying the same thing over again, it's not their fault. It's really important to remember that. And it's a disease. It's not something that's intended. And so, I mean, what Glen did when he came out with this is he created no shame in the game, in his game. I would say to him, uh, Glenn, how's the Alzheimer's? He said, well, I don't got no Alzheimer's. I got part-timers. He made light of it, but he knew what he was up for. But we all know what we're up for. Ultimately, we're going to leave this journey that we're on right now. And acceptance is very important when families are going through it. But I think it's really important that people don't shame other people that have Alzheimer's and don't feel the shame themselves. So,
Would you want to work with Seth Rogen and Lauren on
oh,
a narrative film?
oh,
Uh,
sure.
yeah,
Yeah. Yeah. We're just finishing up Greg Allman. You know who Greg Allman was?
yeah, Allman Brothers. Yeah,
Yeah, the Allman Brothers. Yeah. So
yeah.
we're just finishing a film about him. And not that Seth would be Greg Allman, but it's that the idea of looking at families and and the dynamics within real families. And I think it's fascinating what they've been through. I mean, I think it's extraordinary actually that as young people, when they're first coming together, that they were caregivers and they did that job. And they say in the film that if they're blessed that they have money, that they're able to do something about it. But they also, I mean, they dealt with this, and their dad dealt with it, and their brother dealt with it. And it's hard, man. It's really hard, and it's extraordinary that their bond was so strong that it kept them together. they stayed together. They're still together. And out of this whole thing, they created Hilarity for Charity, which is, I think, a fantastic organization. And yeah, so
Beautiful.
they,
Yeah, I lived with my grandparents near the end as a caregiver, and it is so hard. And what they're doing, the phone call in the film where they tell someone they can get 15 hours
yeah,
of it's beautiful. So yeah, I hope the charity thrives and more people can get help with this.
yeah, and it's extraordinary. The Bright Focus organization, what they do, they fund young research scientists. They're what's going on in our country right now and cutting the NIH. I hope that well they are going to cut the Alzheimer's scientists in some way. But Bright Focus is an organization that funds the scientists themselves. They give grants to young scientists, and it's extraordinary what they do too.
Yeah, at this time, I think people who are able to need to step up because the government's going to be gutting itself. I
Yeah.
mean, I was going to ask, are you worried about the future of Alzheimer's research?
Am I? Absolutely. Yes. I'm worried about science in general and specifically about Alzheimer's and research grants. I mean, when you cut grants to universities where they have great, like for example, the University of Michigan, they cut, I don't know, $4 billion or something. So I don't know if that's statistically correct, but I know it's a lot of money and to a lot of the universities, and it has nothing to do with the politics of Gaza or anything else. It just has to do, we're going to take that money away, and it's it's short-sighted to say the least. It's not specific. There's nothing specific about it. Of course, cutting back on excessive spending in certain areas, whether it's weapons or toilets or whatever, the veterans organization, like, I mean, they've come out with a lot of things over the years that shows that there's waste and some corruption. Yeah, but in science, these folks, that's what if you watch Turning Point, you'll get it. It took, they worked on this drug for 40 years and it still didn't work out, and Eli Lilly spent $4 billion. Yeah, and they're getting closer. They're
Yeah.
getting closer, but if they cut back, the science usually the discoveries come out of universities, and then the universities take that discovery and they give it to the drug companies when they have something that works and they can go into clinical trials in phase 1. They can do it at the university. Phase 2, it starts getting expensive. Phase 3 is really expensive, and that's when the drug companies come in, and they're getting close, but they're not there yet. And if they cut back on all this stuff in your lifetime, man, I don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, it's scary. I mean, if they throw a grenade in a China shop, forget about a bull in a China shop. It's a grenade just with the cutting of everything. And what I like about this film a lot too is that I think, as you said, taking care, it's people relying on each other, love, family, so that when, God forbid, there isn't a safety net or a system or anything like that, you have each other. Uh,
right.
and that's shown beautifully here. So,
Yeah,
well, I appreciate your time. Thank you for discussing it,
yeah.
doing the Lord's work with this great film.
Nice to meet you, man. Take care.
Likewise.